Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Jody Cook, the leader and founder of the North American Dogman Project. I see you have found your way into the Fox Den to round up the pack for another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Much better. Absolutely delicious. I could sit here and feed all day and night. Yeah, without further ado, it is time for Mr. Cook and myself to take a walk into the darkness.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf. And everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back once again to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on StarFox Radio. Jody Cook, the founder and the leader of the North American Dogman Project, has found his way through the dark, dense, and werewolf-infested forest and into the Fox Den to sit around the late night fire and burn the timber with us as we again read a few chapters from the Midnight Society book. Jody, my guy, how the heck are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Super great to sit down with you again, even though I do talk to you pretty much almost every other day, and overall pretty good, man. What's new with you?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just trying to get things done and, make it happen. Just too many things are getting in the way.
Understandable, but that's
Yeah.
what you have us for, to
Yeah.
pretty much take care of some other things while you deal with other things. So what else you been up to, man?
Not a whole lot. Like I said, just trying to get things going with the, with the website and working on a magazine project that I did a magazine called Cryptid Seekers Magazine a couple years ago, and I put about 3 issues out and decided, I wanted to go ahead and redo a few more issues and stuff. So I'm working on one right now, which is about the Flatwoods Monster. That just tells you how busy I've been. I can't even think straight anymore. So like I said, I'm working on the issue of the Flatwoods Monster, which is a really good issue. One of the biggest investigators, and he actually wrote a book on the subject. So I've been working with him on the magazine, the storyline, the history of the Flatwoods Monster, just going back to the root of the story that most people have never heard. So we got a lot of that stuff that's going to be in it, and it's going to be one whole issue on the Flatwoods Monster. It's going to be a pretty good issue, and then the issue after that that I'm working on back and forth too is the Loveland Frogman issue, and I'm hoping to have that one done by the time the Loveland Frogman conference hits in uh, Loveland, Ohio, in April. So I'm kind of excited about that.
That's excellent stuff right there. And yes, to the audience, Jody dives into a bunch of different things, and I'm actually going to have him inform you in a second what he does. But unlike myself, I pretty much just focus on missing people, strange canine like hyena type encounters. But Jody's an OG. He's had a chance to dive into a lot of different things. And to anyone out there that doesn't know who Jody Cook is, oh boy, I mean, for myself, he was pretty much a big reason why I am here where I am now. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, Linda Godfrey, rest in peace, and loved Monster Quest growing up, and have gotten a chance to speak with Doug Hijack too. Great stuff. But Jody, will you give a little bit of a background on yourself, man, and how you became interested in any of this stuff?
I've always been interested in the cryptid, UFOs, lake monsters, stuff like that. Ever since I was a kid, the Loch Ness monster was something that was really big as a child. Bigfoot, the thing that really did it for me was going to see The Legend of Boggy Creek when it came out, as a kid. Scared the heck out of me, but it was a great movie. Got really into the subject, loved it. Because I remember when the Planet of the Apes movies were, coming out, and going to the drive-in as a kid with my family. We went and saw Planet of the Apes, and I remember the trailer for Planet of the Apes was the Patterson film, which was really interesting. And I was like, oh man, that was so neat. Knowing that there's a Bigfoot out there, and kind of always been, very much into the subject. Um, you know, just read about it. I went out with friends. We'd, go to the creeks and stuff, trying to find evidence as a kid, and then, you know, found a UFO group, years later, and kind of got into the ufology part, and which was really good. I had a really good time, learned a lot. Um, we had a TV show that we did called UFO Update Live. It was on public access TV. We did a first Wednesday of every month, and it was a live show. You could call in. We had guests, and we were getting a lot of Bigfoot sightings. Being connected with UFO stuff, and myself and George Clapperson decided, we're going to go ahead and take all the UFO or all the Bigfoot investigations and look into those, and kind of fell into the Bigfoot stuff, that way, kind of hot and heavy with it, and spent a lot of time out in the field, just, every waking moment, you know, doing, investigations and stuff. And, uh, the field started to get a little bit political. Uh, it was becoming like clique, and it was just getting real toxic, you know. So I decided, I'm getting out of the field. It's just it turned just so toxic. Everybody's fighting with each other, and they're still doing it today, which is nuts. And just started to do stuff on my own, and decided I want to look into a new cryptid that everybody's talking about, and it's Dogman. And I thought, that would be really interesting. You know, let's look into this topic. Dave Jones and myself, we're doing a lot of investigations. We came up with the name North American Dogman Project, but we never went anywhere with it um, until about 2016. We decided to go ahead and just go full blown with this thing, with the website, Facebook, and stuff, thinking that we're going to get a lot more reports coming in and so forth. And it just basically blew up. It grew. The organization grew and grew and grew. So to where we are today.
That is absolutely legendary. And yes, to the audience, because Jody is one of my mentors and one of my best friends, I did know all that. But I think it's important that that is out to the world because he has done a ton for, well, just what I dive into myself here on Midnight Lycanthropy. Because without him and Linda and Doug Highcheck from Monster Quest just putting it out there, I mean, I would have hoped I would have somehow found out about you, but honestly, it was through Monster Quest where I saw you and Linda, and I was 11 when I was watching that. And actually, just recently, when I went back in the last couple of years and watched those from like start to finish, did I actually really seep in and fully comprehend every episode? I thought I had, understood and seen them from front to start, which I did, but there was so much I had missed, which was really cool to kind of refresh and update myself on that topic right there for sure. And where do you stand with where this falls into? I mean, I know the three categories that you potentially and we break it down into, but I don't think the audience really does. If you would like to kind of explain that.
Yeah, we normally break them down to flesh and blood, supernatural, and extraterrestrial. And the reason why we do that is by the reports that come in. The flesh and blood, your reports are basically, your typical encounters and sightings. The supernatural ones are where people have seen, you know, these things come through portals or disappear, appear, use telepathy on communicating with them. Uh, just different stuff that's completely out of the ordinary. The extraterrestrial part comes in, and that's mostly we get people who are former military or current military who have talked to us about, some type of dog-headed extraterrestrial or canine type extraterrestrial. And that's where that part falls into because we've had quite a few, incidents and reports that came in from military people um, that is dealt with some type of, canine species.
Yeah, pretty gnarly stuff right there for sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you were the one that told me, and I'm just trying to reiterate for my brain here. But when you were over in Iraq, you got a chance to speak to some merchants that had claimed that basically what we talk about, the cynocephali, more or less, used to come down and trade with them over there.
There's all kinds of stories coming out of the Middle East, um, going back hundreds of years, especially Iraq, because of it being formerly known as Mesopotamia, where there were dog-headed people in the tribe that lived up in the mountains that would come down and trade with the people. They would understand the language, but they couldn't communicate through the language, but they understood it. And it was just, something they did through trading, when it comes to food, spices, nothing for like weapons or anything like that, just basic necessities. And it was just something that these people in this region knew about. It's nothing that was like current today. It was something that their fathers or grandfathers told them, or their great grandparents have told them about, about these particular tribe of dog-headed people. And like I said, it's all in that area. Even the Greeks and the Vikings even talk about a dog-headed tribe of people. Yeah, especially the Vikings. They talked about fighting them. Not only in Europe, but there was actually one story that I heard that I was never able to confirm, but it actually happened when the Vikings were here in, North America, that they talked about fighting tribe of dog-headed men. Now, could these been Native Americans wearing, you know, skins of wolves, you know, as headpieces and stuff? That very well could be. And they described it on what they saw. So we don't know when it comes to North America, with the Vikings, and they're dealing with a tribe of dog-headed men, if it was actually Dogman itself, or was it Native Americans with wolf scalps? So we don't know. It's a lot of these stories, are so hard to confirm, but you can find documentation of it other places, when you do research and so forth. But a lot of it you got to take with a grain of salt, because a lot of this stuff, especially in, you know ancient areas and so forth, is all word of mouth. Some of it, yeah, is documented, but it's also just, just something that has just been passed on through generation by stories. So you have to, kind of read between the lines.
Man, isn't that some legendary stuff? And obviously, not just because you're awesome and you're part of my squad, but that's another big reason why I love you too, right there, man, is because of that mindset. And that's super important because, like you just stated, yes, it's interesting and intriguing. But again, I'm a huge science person, and I just try to always approach things with as much logic and science at first as possible. But it is so intriguing, though, like you said, because it legit sounds like they're describing the cynocephali. Correct me if I'm wrong, over in the Middle East, would they be educated on that topic of the cynocephaly and such? Like if you were just to walk down into the market and ask somebody if they knew who Herodotus and Alexander the Great was, would they be aware of that?
I would say yes and no. The education level on a lot of people in these countries, are, you know, if you got money, you got the education. If you don't, you don't have the education. I
Hmm.
mean, you see what I'm saying? Um, Now they're very well versed on, history. Like I said, when it comes through, you know, talking with their parents, their grandparents, and so forth. So yeah, they probably would know about Alexander the Great. They know everything there is when it comes to someone who tried to conquer them.
Of course.
They know that history.
Okay.
But like I
That's
said, when it comes to, a tribe of dog-headed men, this is it's a lot of times they don't want to talk about it, and times that they will talk about it, because it's one of these things where it's theirs. It's their, it stays in their neighborhood type thing. I mean, if you understand what I'm saying, it's just something they just don't want to broadcast or let out, y- you know, on purpose. It's just something they'd rather keep to themselves. If they're asked about it, yeah, they'll ask about it, but they're not going to sit there and broadcast about it.
great stuff right there. And that totally makes sense. I mean, that's really prevalent in the indigenous cultures. I mean, I have a ton of Native American friends, but they don't like to have their stuff documented per se in books and such, meaning
Hmm.
it's oral because they've been burned in the past with, say, a depiction of something that was written down that wasn't really supposed to mean that, and then it gave them, per se, a negative
Right.
stigmata.
Because Native Americans see things different from what we see it.
Hmm.
Okay. And it's a whole interpretation. A lot of tribes, you know, giving an example, the boogeyman, you know, everybody knows about the boogeyman. If you don't go to bed, the boogeyman's going to get you. Well, we get that from the Cherokee culture, because the Cherokees have a dance, in a story which is called the Booger Dance. And what that is, it's the wild man or the wild woman of the woods. She has a basket on her back that, dances with the children. You don't do your chores, you don't do what your parents tell you to do. Then she comes at night and puts you in a basket and take you away. Okay. And so that goes into Western culture because, we get involved with Native American culture and we find all these things out. And that's how the boogeyman came about, and the the Cherokees, like when they do their mask, their masks, all their noses are crooked, okay, which represents them. But they have some masks that don't have crooked nose that represent different things. Okay, now the Shawnee, is probably one of the most vocal tribes that hate the white man. You know, and to this day, it's like they have like masks that represent Bigfoot and different, I guess you want to say demons and so forth, which they will never allow a white man to see it because they believe the white man is so evil that that evil will come off of them and go into that mask and bring it to life. So
Dang, that's some
it,
spooky stuff.
yeah, it is. And American, cultures, they work because they, like I said, they have representations for different things and they see things different from we do. What how they represent the sun may not be the same way we represent the sun. How they represent water may not be the same way we represent water, rain, storm, snow, different animals, and so forth. And it's all in interpretation. And that's where a lot of this stuff, you know, I think people get confused when they see a lot of this Native American items and they want, oh, this has got to be Bigfoot. Well, not necessarily. You ever heard that, well, you're the low man on the totem pole, so there's something wrong with you. In some Native American cultures, the low man on the totem pole, that's the highest representation of that entity, and it's not the one that's on top. There's just a lot of different, like I said, there's different interpretations when it comes in, and same thing with Bigfoot. Most of the Native American tribes believe. I mean, there's 500 tribes, okay, in the United States, and probably less than 150, okay, I would say know something about a Bigfoot. Okay, so their representation of it is different to each tribe. Okay, but they look at it as not a demon, they see it as a native itself, and they are their tribe of their own.
Wow.
Okay, but like I said, it's all an interpretation. When it comes to different Native American cultures, when it comes to Bigfoot, yeah, the Wendigo is like their version of the devil. To certain tribes, he's just as real to them as Satan is, to us.
Yeah, that's some straight up gnarly stuff right there for sure.
Yeah,
Again, and that all kind of gets mixed up sometimes into the same pot, which is why we really try to distinguish it. I mean, there's similarities, like you were saying, but then the Skinwalker and the Wendigos kind of get mixed up. And you just
yeah.
taught me something too, man. I thought every indigenous culture had representations of Sasquatch and such, but wow.
I was talking with a uh, physical anthropologist one time that did a lot of research on um, part of his work was like on folklore and things like that within Native American culture. And he said, there's tribes out west. Of course, we're not talking about the tribes in California, Washington State, and Oregon, but we're talking like the plains and things like that that has no idea of a Bigfoot because they've never encountered anything like that.
Would
Okay,
make sense, yeah.
and certain parts of the country. So yeah, I can understand it and I can see that, but you have to also look at it this way too. When you look at Bigfoot sightings, okay, going back 100 years, going back 150 years, or even 200 years, where were the sightings at? For majority of the sightings, yes, were in the Pacific Northwest and California. Okay. Then you had sightings that were on the East Coast, in the southern part of the East Coast of the country. You're talking like Florida and Louisiana, Arkansas, things like that. Okay. Those were the two areas where a lot of the sightings were taken back. When you go, like I said, 100 years, 200, 150 years ago. So when you look at the tribes that's outside of those areas, you know, were they seeing it? They could. But the thing about Native Americans is they always made a representation of what they saw: the deer, the snake, the bear, the eagle, things like that. Okay. So when you sit there and look at tribes that are in the Pacific Northwest, all the representations that they have done of Bigfoot, and you look at all the different other tribes, and there's no representations of Bigfoot in a lot of different tribes because they've never encountered it.
Wow.
You know,
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
My-
So everybody thinks that every single Native American tribe in the United States, you know, has something to do with Bigfoot. No, that's not true. They don't, because like I said, Native Americans, they when they see something, they document it. Okay, when I say document it, they do cave paintings, they do hieroglyphs or whatever that they do to document what they see, and a lot of these tribes don't. Now, when it comes to extraterrestrials, that's a whole different thing. That's throughout a lot, majority of Native American tribes in the United States. Okay. But basically, when it comes to Bigfoot, you know, no, there's not. And even when it comes to Dogman, okay, there's hardly any representation whatsoever in Native American culture when it comes to Dogman. I have not found one piece of evidence in Native American culture of documentation except was that I found a wood carving mask at a powwow of a wolf's head. Okay. But this one was different from anything I've ever seen. It had high pointed ears. It had, a longer face, head, and it had the snout. Um, Most representations of a wolf's head is more looks more like a dog. This was different. This was absolutely different from anything that I've ever seen, and that probably would have been the only thing that I would say was probably close to Dogman. But I mean, I'm sure maybe there is a tribe out there that's got something, other than the Wendigo or the Skinwalker. Okay, which I think are two completely different entities from Dogman. Now, can some Native American tribes confuse Dogman with, the Skinwalker? Possibility. They very much could. But I just don't think that they're confusing the skinwalker with a dogman or a dogman with a skinwalker.
Agree with all that right there. That's some excellent stuff for sure. And I'm right there with you. I mean, there's some references like the Shakuaran and such, and that fall into the hyena category, which is, pretty much like kind of our type three that we're trying to work with. But like you said, it is really head scratching, I guess, now that you point that stuff out. I just would think there would be some more acknowledgement of that. And before I ask my next question, I have another question I wanted to ask you. Growing up, there was this show, I believe, called Mysterious Encounters. And I was again 11 teen, and I had a crush on this woman. I believe her name was Autumn. And she went around with her team looking for Sasquatch. And some of the early vocalizations I had heard that were quality that now fast forwards people still use, she had gotten her hands on and actually recorded some of those, but then she just literally vanished out of nowhere. I mean, her show just stopped, and now when I try to search for her and such, she is literally just gone to the past. Do you know who I'm referring to?
No, I don't. No, I don't even remember the show. The only show I remember growing up was like In Search of.
Yeah, this was on like Outdoor Learning Network or something like that, where, yeah, you wouldn't have really, it wasn't well publicized. Her and her team just went out and pretty much it was like the earlier versions of what we see now, finding Bigfoot and stuff. And I'll have to try to find some more info and send it to you because, yeah, she had some great stuff, but then boom, just disappeared, man. And I just always wondered what had happened to her. But the question I also wanted to ask too is, it's also really interesting when you see all these cultures that spoke about, quote unquote, these cynocephali coming down to trade with them and things. What do you think caused this just to stop? Like, I mean, because you have the Romans talking about that, you have the actual country of India speaking about it, you have the Middle East speaking about it. William White, part of our science team, and other members seem to think that their civilization must have had a collapse to an extent, kind of like any other huge civilization does, and now they're in sparser numbers. I mean, what else would have stopped them from just interacting and coming down and trading with us?
Humans are violent people. Okay, we have a hard time coexisting with other species, let alone ourselves. Okay, and I can see these different dog-headed tribes not wanting to get involved anymore because they see the wars. You know, I'm sure some of them were accidentally, purposely, or whatever. Okay. And I think a lot of that had to have stopped. But there again, you know, you have to think about diseases, starvation, um, just lack of common sense on survival. Could have done a lot. They could have gone underground. You know, um, and start a society. Underground where it's safer. It's hard, but the biggest problem I think with this is that there is really no physical evidence, okay, of them existing other than what's in text. Now, if I had $1 million, okay, I would put $1 million down that I guarantee you somewhere in the Smithsonian Institute there is a full skeleton remains of a Bigfoot and possibly a dog band. I would guarantee it. Now, the thing with the Smithsonian, they only put specimens out if they have more than one. If they don't have more than one, they don't ever put the specimens out. They're still documenting what they have. Okay, from paper into computer, and this has been going on for 30 years, and they're still documenting stuff. And a lot of people don't understand this. Smithsonian is a lot like the okay. They've got stuff in there that you know if you don't have the clearance, you don't go in. To certain levels. I mean, because this stuff goes underground. Okay, where they store a lot of this stuff, and if you don't have the clearance to get into a lot of this stuff, because I mean, a lot of this stuff is very valuable stuff, and not everybody can just get access to it. But I guarantee you that they've got remains inside the Smithsonian somewhere. I guarantee they have to have it. If they probably have remains of what we consider giants, because there's too much physical evidence out there that giants lived in North America. There were Indian tribes of giants. There's where bodies were found in mounds. So the Smithsonian's got the stuff. They do. And that's why I'm saying if I had $1 million to bet, I would win. I would double my money.
No, for sure. And I'm a big fan of the Smithsonian, but I also understand, like you just said, the other levels of it. I mean, I think it's super cool how they have all these amazing specimens and such. But yeah, obviously, I'm not a dummy and understand there's other layers to it that are occurring for sure. And as we start to come to an end here, what are your plans for yourself and the North American Dogman project and the direction you kind of want to take things for the 2025 year and onwards?
Well, I'm just hoping we get some more good evidence, and the North American Dogman project. We're here to put information out. The website for people to read good stories, for people to look at the evidence that we put out. We don't make money off of it. We're a nonprofit. We're there for the information. So we know that we get a lot of views. I mean, we get close to 30,000 views a month. That's a lot. We get a lot of views, and we get a lot of repeat people coming on the site, which is great, and I'm glad. But we're gonna for 2025 we're gonna start putting a lot more new information on there and make it a lot more better site. Make so where people can keep coming back, we can start reading more and more new information. And if anybody has any good stories, please let us know. Let us document the stories. Let us, if you have a drawing of what you saw, let us have the drawing. We'll put it on the site so other people could read about the story and see what you saw, and feel your emotions through the story. That's what people want. People don't want to be entertained. People want to be, I hate to use the word scared, but they want to feel this the scare and the emotions that these people talk about in their stories. They just don't want to be entertained.
No, that's great stuff right there, and I couldn't agree more. And I look forward to what we're going to accomplish for sure, because I feel like there's a big difference, man. You got the people that like the clickbait and just for some reason tune out science. I mean, the people that tune into the Looney Tune stuff, I don't know if they just don't understand science or just push it completely aside, because those people don't want to hear the facts. But then you have the people that like the facts and such that want nothing to do with that crazy spam clicking stuff, because, for
Right.
example, entertainment is knowledge, okay? I just love entertaining myself with knowledge, okay? That's entertaining to me. But then other people, for some reason, like to watch stuff that is what I would consider useless anything, but there's that difference right there. And I do encourage anyone out there just to seep up the knowledge. It's great stuff. And make sure you learn something every day. I mean, I try to learn numerous things, and I had already learned a few things today. And look at this, Jody teaches me some more things. I mean, I enjoy being updated and corrected and provided proper knowledge. Some people get upset about that when they're incorrect. I mean, there's ways where people can be being a troll to you when they're trying to update your knowledge, but man, knowledge is priceless, dude. So every time I get to learn things, it's absolutely excellent. I always appreciate you popping in, man, and I definitely would like to get you on here more frequently. I know you're a super busy guy, but it is important to get out proper knowledge and also just get a stamp of approval so people know, who you are and stuff. And now that the internet is more prevalent, I mean, back when, like I said, Monster Quest and you first started kind of doing this, there wasn't really a good way to get the voice out there. I was super lucky, like I said, to find you through Monster Quest, but now with how easy it is to get voices out there, I just think it's important that we get you talking, man, because you are a plethora of knowledge and it is important to get that out there. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And is there anything else you would like to touch base on before we let you roll, man?
No, I'm good, brother.
Well, my friends, yes, this means we are concluding our meeting tonight with the Midnight Society. Yes, we do need to allow Mr. Cook to get back to things he needs to attend to. But as stated, we will have him back very soon. And in the description of the video, all of the links to our website and such will be up there, and also in the description of my channel you can find all the links. Thanks again for hanging out with us, Jody.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
Ooh, you legends, you, I do adore every single one of you, and thank you for tuning in tonight. If you do like my content, please subscribe, share it, and feed the algorithm. Catch you on the next one.